Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We will just leave a moment for the rest of the people to join. Please know that if you don't want to take notes, you don't need to. We will be getting this recording out to everyone who has registered. And so please just relax, enjoy the conversation, and you can take notes later. We would love for you to just be present today and as you hear from our guests. And we will get started. So welcome everyone. My name is Leah Swanberg. I'm the founder of Canadian Fertility Consultants and Egg Helpers. I'm joined today by Dr. Lee Brack, the founder and director of Create Fertility Center, the largest fertility clinic in Canada with the largest third-party program and a partner of ours for nearly 18 years, and really is a leading expert, I would say, anywhere on surrogacy and egg donation, and has really just been an amazing partner to us, and joining as well, Cindy Wasser, who is the founder and the lead lawyer at Hope Springs Fertility Law, and as well a partner of ours who has shown up for this great cause of infertility and alternative family building in Canada in so many ways. During COVID, getting people into Canada who really couldn't get here, and has completed more contracts for us for egg donation and surrogacy than any other lawyer. So thank you guys both for joining us. We really appreciate it today.
Thank you for having us. This is an honor.
Absolutely. So I thought I would break this down into 3 parts, starting with Dr. Lee Brack, Cindy, and then myself. So Dr. Lee Brack, people decide, or unfortunately through infertility, understand that surrogacy and egg donation, or one of each, or both combined, are going to be the way that they build their families. And if that is the case, what do they do next, and what process do you take them through to get pregnant?
That's a great question. So we have to start somewhere, and that really is where we do a consultation to determine what the best. I don't know if you're hearing an echo. You guys have an echo? I have an echo. Sorry. No, I have an echo. I don't know. Maybe I can fix it somewhere. Yeah, it's hard to talk when I have an echo. Okay, I'll try start again. I still have it, but I'll do my best. Sorry about that. So we see patients for consultations, a medical assessment, and they may be a single person, man and woman. They may be a same-sex male, female couple, or they may be a heterosexual couple that we see. And they need an egg donor, they may need a surrogate, they may need both. It all depends on their particular circumstances. Obviously, a same-sex male couple would need both. So when we do the assessment, I want to take a medical history on each of the people that would be providing gametes, like the sperm providers. If they're using an egg donor, then the egg donor would be assessed separately. And then I would do go through the whole process of what we need to do in order to assess them, which involves things like blood testing and genetic testing, and depending on if it's a male or female, sperm testing or testing of their uterus and ovaries. So basically a full assessment that they would do. Oh, did you guys, I lost you guys. Can you see me? Hear me? Okay, I can't hear you guys.
Oh, I was muted. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, good.
We can see you.
So that's kind of the starting point. Leah, do you want to know, what do you want to know next?
Yeah, so when people are coming to you with this starting point, if they live outside of the Toronto area where your clinic is located, can they do this where they live, if they live overseas or in the US or outside of the province of Ontario? How do you manage all of that?
That's an excellent question. We have patients from all over the world, and we are so fortunate to be working with the Canadian Fertility Consultants and Egg Helpers, as well as Cindy's law firm, to be able to handle all the different areas of the world. For men that are living outside of the country, we need obviously to assess their sperm, and they can do all of that locally. They can have their own doctor order sperm testing, blood testing, because we want to kind of know what's going on before they actually come here to provide sperm that we're going to need to use to actually create a baby. And we have actually two ways that we can have sperm brought here. One is they can fly in an airplane and come here, hopefully in an airplane, or if they're local, they can drive. And they would then provide sperm at the clinic and we'd have it ready to go and freeze it, ready to go when we need it. Or we actually had developed a kit, and this actually was something that happened during COVID, where people just couldn't travel very well, and so they're able to use this kit to freeze their own sperm at home. There's a video that they watch on how to do it pretty well. We've done hundreds of them now, and they would have someone draw blood, and it would be shipped to Canada or our clinic, and we'd be able to handle the sample here without having to actually fly here, because of course it's hard for everybody take off work sometimes to come here from a long way away, such as Australia or wherever they are. So basically, we can handle people from all over the world. If it's a woman who's providing eggs of her own, she could come here and have her IVF cycle done here. She could do it locally where she is, and the embryos could be created, or eggs, and they can be frozen and shipped here as well. So that's another option that can be done for, say, when there's a female involved in the process other than an egg donor.
Excellent. And we had a question sent in, and it was from a gay couple, and they asked when they both provide their sperm, do you choose one? Do you mix them together? How does that work in terms of whose sperm is used and how?
That's a great question. So one of the first questions I ask when I do a consultation with a same-sex male couple is, do you want to create embryos from the sperm of each of you or just one of you? Because some people just want one child. Obviously, you have to choose who's going to provide the sperm. But very commonly, one of the most common ways that routes that we see is when you have two men and each of them provides sperm, and we fertilize half of the eggs with one of them or half with the other. It doesn't have to be 50-50. There are reasons why someone might freeze more, make more embryos with one or the other, but it allows them to have the opportunity to have a sibling that's linked genetically through the donor, which is an amazing situation. We see a lot of that. It's very common. In fact, we say to them, on your first transfer, you can decide to do, one person's sperm or the other person's sperm that made the embryo, or you can just say, Dr. Liebrecht, pick the best embryo, and it'll be a surprise at the end. And obviously, we'd use the other person's for the next journey. So there's a lot of things that we can do in that regard.
Excellent. And then once the consultation's done, often intended parents will contact us and they're ready to start with an egg donor first, we suggest, so that they have some embryos to work with, and then to a surrogate. And if you were going to sort of make some suggestions to people around the egg donor process, what they should look for, what they can expect from a fertility clinic in working with their egg donor to create the embryos, what would that be?
So we recommend the agency, and Egg Helpers is our go-to agency in Canada because they have the most donors and the most choice. So we really love working with them. And so we will refer them to Egg Helpers in most cases because they can find an egg donor, because people want to do this as quickly as possible. Once you make a decision, you want to have children, you want to do this as quickly as possible. So if you have the most selection, it's likely you're going to be matched with the donor the quickest. So when you're looking at donors, you want to sort of think about what is it you want to is important to you, and things could be their appearance. Maybe they look like someone in your family. Could be their medical background, their genetic background is important, because we have to match them up genetically. And what we do is we do what's called carrier screening. We test about 600 genes now, and almost all of us have a mutation in one or more of those genes. And that doesn't affect us at all. We're healthy even when you have these mutations. In fact, some even have advantages. But if you have two people that are providing a sperm and egg that both have the same mutation, the baby could end up with that particular disease. So that would probably not be a good match for someone who was trying to work with that donor. But we can test for those diseases in the embryo. So there is the option to not reject that donor, but still test for those diseases. And we also want, you're going to look at, what their education level may be. Do they have, talents or hobbies or work that they do that's very similar to what you do or what you're looking for that might be someone you would like to work with. So there's so many different ways that you can choose a donor. We're there to do the medical screen to make sure she's a good candidate, that it would make sense to use her as a donor, have her as a donor, I should say. And so we'll do psychological screening on her. We'll do the genetic, as I mentioned. We'll do blood work to make sure there's no infectious diseases. And we're going to do physical examination, ultrasound. We want to really look at all the aspects of the donor to make sure she's a good candidate. And one of the most important tests that we do on donors is called the anti-Müllerian hormone, or AMH. And this tells us whether she has a good or not so good ovarian reserve. And donors must have a cutoff, an AMH level above a certain cutoff to qualify to be a donor. Now, if you're looking at having one child, then we don't need so many eggs. So a lower AMH might suffice and you get a beautiful, healthy baby and you're all done. But if you want to have more than one child, say a heterosexual couple that wants two children, or a gay couple wants one for each of them, then we want to have donors that have a higher number of eggs so that we can make sure we have enough embryos for two children or one for each of them. And we have what's called a guarantee program in our clinic, where we do a guarantee one baby, a guarantee two babies, but for same-sex male couples, we have a guarantee 1+1, meaning one child for each of them, which is really a desire for many, many same-sex male couples that we see.
Excellent. And once the donor is in the process, do intended parents get updates of how things are going because they're often far away? And how do your nurses keep intended parents up to date on how things are going?
Well, we have amazing nurses that are dedicated to our third-party program, and we have nurses that are involved with the intended parents to make sure they get all their testing done. And then we also have nurses that will look after the donor and the surrogate. So that's their specialty area. And so when they're looking after the donor, we communicate with the intended parents as to what's happening, when they're going to start their cycle, how many eggs we retrieve from them, how many, we split between the two people if there are two people, how many fertilize, and how many embryos did we end up at the end. And finally, when we do genetic testing on the embryos, which is very commonly done, especially in our guarantee program where it's included, and we have one of the top genetics labs in the world to do this kind of testing on embryos. And so we can test whether they have the right or wrong number of chromosomes. Normal people have 46, 47 would be too many. An example would be extra 21 is Down syndrome, and 45 would be too few, which could be a severely abnormal child or a miscarriage or just no pregnancy. So those are ones we want to eliminate. When we're working with young egg donors, we know about 30% on average, and we've done thousands of cases, are going to be abnormal, and those are the ones we want to not use, obviously, for the transfer. So we can really inform them of exactly what they have at the end, so that they know how many embryos they have, and then we can move forward with the surrogacy part.
Excellent. And when we have intended parents, they have embryos, they identify an agency, whether it's CFC or another agency, and they begin to look for a surrogate. The surrogate comes in to meet with your team, whether it's yourself or a nurse practitioner. Can you just talk a little bit about how you coordinate that, how you support the surrogate through the process in moving forward with intended parents?
Well, both donors and surrogates in Canada are altruistic, and they're incredible women that do this. They're getting expenses reimbursed, so it doesn't cost them money to do it, but they're doing it from their heart. They want to help somebody have a child, and so they're amazing people, and we want to treat them extremely well and respect the fact that they're doing such an incredible thing for the parents to have a child. And for many of them, it's the most important thing they've ever done in their life, and their families are so proud of them for doing this. So it's really an amazing sort of sisterhood of women that do this. So when we look after the surrogate, we want to do a full assessment, like I mentioned for the egg donor. We do blood work, and here we're going to be concentrating a lot on the ultrasound of the uterus, because that's where the baby's going to grow. We want to make sure it's healthy. If someone had a C-section, then we want to check the scar. Has it healed well? Because it has to be safe for them to carry the baby as well. So the safety of the surrogate is paramount, that she's going to come out healthy at the end. And so we want to make sure her pregnancies were no complications, major complications, or anything that could affect her health in the next pregnancy. We want to make sure that she's, all her blood work is good, and all of those things that I've mentioned that we need to do. So, and then we'll come here and we'll do a physical examination as well. And we also do, on both donors and surrogates, we do what's called urine toxicology. We want to make sure that they're not, smoking cigarettes, for example, or taking drugs or any medication that could affect the baby during the pregnancy. So we want to do a full assessment on everything, and we do a psychosocial screening on surrogates and donors to make sure we feel comfortable with them to be a donor.
Fantastic. And having, we talk to fertility doctors all the time, and I'm really amazed and always excited when fertility doctors have also been working as OBGYNs and delivered tons of babies, and are really looking at not only can I get clients in the door, can I get them pregnant and a baby, but really looking at, is this safe for the surrogate? And over the years, what was safe is safe. What we know, having, even just us worked on thousands of cases together, it's really almost as important for me when you say, Leah, no, like this isn't a safe situation for the surrogate. That to me is the win. It's not the, oh yes, let's move forward with the 20 cycles we do a month together, or 30 cycles we do a month together. Those are great. But knowing now what I know from the past 17 years is, when you say no, I'm so grateful that that you've reviewed it. And there has often been this piece in our community, in the surrogacy community, about how US clinics are more strict, or US clinics are more diligent. And I will say that that actually isn't the case. I think that medical records being reviewed are being reviewed by a doctor who's been doing this forever. And I really value that, and respect the no on that. And we see the same amount of no's in Canada as the US. And for us, what we've been really inspired by as well is this large study that you did on body mass index, which the world knows is a flawed system. A weightlifter's body mass index is too high, so it's seeing all of this research that you're continuing to do to really debunk the myths that are the TikTok and Instagram doctors who, have a comment on some random study that had 40 participants or 12, just to be sensational. And I really believe that it's thousands of cases, 30 years in this field. It's, offering, inviting, showing up for surrogates with the therapy, the counseling throughout the entire journey. Who does that? Well, Create does that. We do that. Cindy believes in that. And not just sensationalizing a TikTok account, an Instagram account. And it's just such a human approach. So I really, really appreciate that. And I'll move to Cindy. So surrogate screened, she's going to get pregnant. We all agree that one embryo is safest. And so she goes for an embryo transfer, and listen, we hope it works. And, more times than not, it does work. And so we're amazed when it does. Science can only do so much. And when it doesn't, we regroup and we look at the why, and we look at, for us as an agency, we look at, how can we support this woman in a different way? The clinical piece of let's get her to talk to the counselor, because it's often very disappointing for a woman who isn't infertile. It's a very different population. So if you're looking for a clinic, having one that has that counseling piece available to your surrogate in-house at all times, so key. And then, shifting medication, just trying again, whatever it is, the commitment of your clinic is key. And to one other point before I move to Cindy, Dr. Liebrecht said these guaranteed programs, and listen, it's like a casino. The best thing that can happen is your surrogate gets pregnant the first time. The worst thing that happens is your surrogate gets pregnant the first time, because the clinic makes more money on the first time, but your surrogate's pregnant the first time. And having a clinic that says, we will give you back your money if we don't help you have a baby. And, there are those rare times that happens, and it's heartbreaking, and there's no amount of money that can make that better. But I will say, working with a clinic who does stand behind the work that they're doing, and when you talk to clinics as intended parents, asking, do you have dedicated third-party nurses? Do you have counseling and support for my surrogate? Are you going to refer me to an agency that will pick up the phone to you so that if something goes wrong and we reach out to the clinic, that you'll reach out to the agency? And do they have a program that they stand behind should something occur? And, for us, Create does check those boxes. So I will move on to Cindy. Cindy, what I would love for you to cover is, someone's thinking about surrogacy. They live in BC, they live in Israel, they live in France, wherever they live. What are the legal steps? What should they be doing step by step? Maybe even before they get to the clinic, to know that they can actually participate.
I think it's critical, and I don't just say it because I am a lawyer, but I think in most webinars and research things that we look at in this industry, everybody says it's a really good idea to start with the lawyer, or at least all at the same time before you sign anything. So if you're outside of Canada, it's different than inside. The first step outside of Canada is, I'm going to tell you to seek advice of a lawyer in your country for two issues. One is being recognized as the child's parents when you come home, because you're coming home with a Canadian baby. And the second is giving citizenship to that child. So they're two separate issues, and people often confuse them. So you can't give citizenship of your own country. Let's say you live in France. You won't be able to give your French citizenship unless you're proven to be the parent. Right? So that's the first step. And we in Canada, as lawyers, can't be responsible to know the law in other countries, and we're not able to give that advice. So we work very closely with lawyers in all those countries to keep up to date. But once you retain a lawyer in your country, it's that lawyer's responsibility to also keep me updated with what needs to be done. And there may be, it may not be a major change of legislation. It may be that a judge just ruled on a case and says, I want to see this in the surrogacy agreement. That lawyer has to tell me that you're going to need it in France. Within Canada, it's different. We can give advice to you wherever you live in Canada, wherever your surrogate is in Canada, because we know what those laws are. I keep up to date with every provincial law. I do keep up to date with the foreign ones, but I'm not allowed to give that advice. And I'm writing a book on fertility law and international fertility law, so all those lawyers will be giving me information at the time, and I'm always researching it. But it's very important that you seek that advice. And so